extensive chain of massive and majestic mountains, rice terraces, hills, U-shaped valleys, rivers, lakes, natural, man-made, and even haunted caves. That's right, this is Cordillera. Rice is the staple crop for the Igorots, and they have built some of the biggest and most advanced rice terraces in the world. The term Igorot is an old Tagalog word meaning people from the mountains. To this day, many of the tribes still practice Thanksgiving rituals. The forest provides an abundant source of wild meat for many families. Children start to fish and hunt at an early age. Rare necklaces made of wild boar tusks and crocodile teeth may be centuries old and has been passed down from generation to generation. Men traditionally get tattooed as a rite of being a warrior or taking a head. Women, on the other hand, would get tattoos as a sign of beauty.
Naga po kami is nandang ato ay piling. Piling ka munyan ay adun maaping. Tubig yang kapoy mo papig sa sipugaw. Tawadan ni Bigsan, Liman, Sulibaw. Montaño sa Benguet, Ifugao. Lingga, Abra, Bagyo, Apayao. Say mangibugaw. Say mangibugaw.
Good day, class. Today we will discuss about the Igorot tribes, the Kankanaey. The Kankanaey are belong to the tribal group called Igorots. They are one of the larger tribes in the region. They are a hardworking people in the field of agriculture who are already reached by modern technologies. Ang mga Kankanaey daw ay kabilang sa mga tribong Igorot. Sila ay kilala bilang isang masisipag na tao sa larangan ng agrikultura. The Kankanaey peoples are live in the mountainous regions of Mountain Province and Benguet, more specifically in the municipalities of Tadjan, Bauco, Sabangan, Bakun, Kibungan, and Mankayan. Their society is divided into two social classes based primarily on the ownership of the land. The rich or tinatawag na baknang, and the poor or yung mga mahirap ay tinatawag na abiteg or kodo. The baknan or the rich are the primarily landowners to whom the abiteg or the poor render their services to. So, the Mankayan Kankanaes, however, has no clear distinction between the baknang and the abiteg, and all have equal access to resources such as the copper and gold mines. Sa kabila ng social classes ng mahirap at mayaman, ang Mankayan Kankanaes have their equal access or yung pantay na access sa mga resources nila. Resources nila katulad nung gold and copper. And now, let's talk about the cuisines of the Kankanaes people. The Kankanaey build rice terraces which have become sufficient sources of food. The staple foods of the Kankanaey are kamote, rice, potatoes, and other root crops like toge and gabi. In terms of dishes, wild animals meat such as deer, boar, civet cats, and lizards are salted and dried under the sun to preserve it. Wild roots, Honey and fruits are also gathered to supplement diet. Meron din silang dalawang varieties ng rice or ng palay. Ito ay kintoman and saranay or bayag. The kintoman, just as mentioned earlier, is more popular known as red rice due to its color. So yung kintoman, ito yung tinatawag nilang red rice. At syempre, ang saranay or yung bayag is whitish and small grained. Ito naman yung mga puting butil ng bigas at na maliliit. At sa isda naman, ang usual types of fish na nahuli nila is yung eel or igat. At yung iba pa ay yung mga maliliit na isda na galing sa ilog as well as crabs. In addition, the pigs, chickens, dogs, and cattle are domesticated as additional sources of food. Yun daw, additional sources din nila ng food ang pagkain ng mga baboy, manok, karning aso at mga karning baka. So, ang dog meat is considered as a delicacy. O kino-consider nila yung karning aso bilang kanilang delicacy, and pigs and chickens are used mainly for ceremonial activities. So yan, yung mga pigs and chickens is kalimitan nilang inuulam or kinakain tuwing may mga ceremonial activities like weddings. So let's proceed on their cultures. Kankanaes do not worship idols and images. The carved images in their homes only serve decorative purposes. So, ang mga Kankanaes ay hindi sila sumasamba sa mga idolo or sa mga imahe. Inuukit lamang nila ito, yung mga imahe na yun, upang magsilbing dekorasyon lamang sa kanilang tahanan. They believe in the existence of deities. So, when we say deities, it talks about God and goddesses. So, dun sila naniniwala na merong mga gods and goddesses. Hindi sila naniniwala sa mga imahe or mga kung ano-anong idolo dyan na mga ginagawa. Ang mga Kankanae din ay nagpe-perform sila ng iba't ibang rituals dahil naniniwala sila dito na itinataboy nito ang mga masasamang pangitain o yung mga calamities na darating sa kanila. Some of these rituals are pedit. Itong pedit ay ibig sabihin niya is to bring good luck to newlyweds. Ito yung ritual na kung saan nagbibigay ng good luck sa mga bagong kasal. And another one is the pasang. Ito naman yung cure sterility and sleeping sickness, particularly drowsiness. Ito yung ritual sa mga may sakit sa pagtulog, ganun. And pakde, ito naman yung cleanse community from death causing evil spirit. Ito naman yung ritual nila para sa komunidad or community nila para maiwasan yung kunwari may namatay sa community nila. So gagawa sila ng ritual nang sa gayon ay wala nang sumunod or maiwasan yung sunod-sunod na pagkamatay.
Ngayon naman ay darako tayo sa arts and craft ng mga Igorot. Kapag sinabi nating arts and craft, isa ang Igorot sa may pinakamayaman pagdating sa arts and craft. So tingnan natin kung ano nga ba yung mga pinagmamalaki nila. Hindi matatawaran ang mga naiambag ng mga Igorot pagdating sa arts and craft. Igorot culture revolves around rice, which is considered a prestige crop. So, sinasabi ng mga Igorot o ang mga kultura ng mga Igorot ay umiikot sa rice, kung saan ikinokonsidera nila ito as a treasure. Isang halimbawa dito ay yung rice terraces sa Banawe, kung saan ito ay kanilang ipinagmamalaki. Ancestor spirit are also known as kalading among the Igorot. Ancestor spirit were usually represented by a carved figure. So dito sinasabi na ang mga espiritu daw ng mga Igorot ay tinatawag nilang kalading, kung saan ito ay madalas na nakaukit sa mga kahoy. The carved figure were also known as tao-tao or little human, bata or bata-bata or little child. Other name includes bulol or bulol. So kapag ka nakaukit na yung ancestor nila sa kahoy, tatawagin na nila itong bata-bata, tao-tao, or di kaya naman ay bulol. Ngayon naman ay dumako tayo sa arts ng mga Igorot. The arts of the Igorot includes post of ancestral dwellings, indigenous tools, weapons, sculpture, wood carving. They are actively engaged in art, particularly tattooing. So sinasabi na ang arts ng mga Igorot ay talaga nga namang napakayaman. Dito pa lang sa mga ibinigay na halimbawa, masasabi natin na tunay nga na napakayaman ng arts ng mga Igorot. Dances. The performance of indigenous dances is one of the most renowned way to highlight the Igorot identity. It displays a wide range of cultural elements including traditional practices, ritual, costume, indigenous art, and music. So sinasabi lang dito na dance is one of their way for them to identify. So ang pagsasayaw ay isa ring parte ng kanilang kultura para sila ay makilala. Isa ito sa nagbibigay sa kanilang pagkakakilanlan. The dances of Igorot is called tayaw. That is performed by people in a circular motion in harmony with the beat of gongs. It has become the most signature dance of the Igorot to the Cordilleran identity. So ang tawag pala sa sayaw ng mga Igorot ay tayaw. Isa ito sa kanilang mga best dance ever. Traditional ceremonies and ritual. This includes the variety of traditional practices and ritual uniquely associated to belief of each tribe in the Cordillera. These practices are reflected in the major stages of an individual's life cycle or from birth to death. Sinasabi lang dito na yung traditional ceremonies na and ritual ng mga Igorot ay umiikot sa life cycle ng isang tao. Kumbaga mula sa pagkabuhay hanggang sa pagkamatay. There are also animal sacrifices like chicken, pigs, and cattle are central to the Igorot ritual, usually depending on the type of ritual. So sa mga Igorot, uso din sa kanila yung mga animal sacrifices. Kumbaga, kapag may ikakasal, magkakatay sila ng baboy, tas parang ipapamigay ata nila ganun. Parang ganun din kapag may nagpapagamot or pag may kailangan silang gamutin or kaya may sakit sa isang pamilya, kailangan nilang magkatay ng isang hayop. Tapos yung dugo nun, yun yung parang ipapainom dun sa may sakit para mawala yung sakit niya. Igorot communities incorporate figure of plant and animals on their woven costume. This figure can symbolizes a variety or simple showcase the resources found in the community. A snake, for example, can mean bad luck, while the figure of sun can refer to the abundance or prosperity, while some tribes share similar figure in their culture. So meron din pala sa kanilang yung parang sa Chinese na may mga pinaliniwalaan sila na kumbaga nga kagaya ng example dito yung snake, ang meaning sa kanila nun is yung bad luck. Kapag ka naman yung sun is yung kasaganahan. Ganun. Ngayon naman ay dadako na tayo sa costume or dun sa mga kasuotan ng mga Igorot. So ito ngayon sa panlalaki. The male traditional clothing is called bahag or G-string. The primary purpose of the bahag is to cover the male part. After covering the male organ, it is then wrapped around the waist to prevent from falling. So kung makikita natin sa picture, parang native talaga yung dating ng traditional cloth ng mga Igorot. So ayan, punta naman tayo sa female traditional cloth. The female traditional cloth of the Igorot is called kegal, tiboli. The blouse is called kegal, bentillas, and the skirt is called lewak, tedeyong. The beaded belts are called hilet lemimet. The necklace is called bekelew, and the hairdress is called sewat. So, yung kabuuang tawag dun sa traditional cloth ng mga Igorot female ay kegaltiboli. So, kapag pinaghiwalay natin yung blouse, yung pantaas at yung pambaba, magiging magkaiba na yung tawag sa kanya. Ito na nga yung kapag yung pantaas ang tawag ay kegal bentillas. At kapag naman yung skirt ay lewak tedeyong. So makikita natin na napaka-creative na mga Igorot pagdating sa kanilang traditional cloth. So ayan, para malinaw, ito yung picture nung kanilang hair dress. This headdress comes from the Ifugao people in Luzon, northern Philippines. Its woven frame is decorated with feathers and seated on top is wooden figure. The rice god Bulol or Bulol brings good luck to the harvest, and the village chief would probably wear this crown during planting and harvest ritual. So, itong headdress para sa mga babae ay napakahalaga din sa kanila dahil nga dun sa taas. Kung makikita nyo, meron siyang figure ng isang bulol para sa masaganang ani. Ngayon naman ay dumako tayo sa craft ng mga Igorot. Una na nga dito ay yung basket weaving or yung pananahi o paggawa ng mga basket. Basket weaving. Basket are mainly used for their occupation. Used to store their food when they need to go to mountain terraces to cultivate their land. So, ito nga yung basket ay ginagamit na sa kanilang pang-araw-araw na pamumuhay. Ginagamit nila ito sa kanilang trabaho kapag umaakyat sila sa mga bundok para asikasuhin yung kanilang mga pananim or yung kanilang mga lupain. So, isa ito, binebenta rin nila ito as sign of their production ng kanilang mga produkto, ganun. Isa ito sa kanilang mga produkto. Kung pupunta tayo sa Baguio halimbawa, makakabili tayo ng mga ganitong klase ng basket na sila mismo ang nagtahi. So, ayan, ang next natin ay yung kanina pa pinag-uusapan na wood carving o yung pag-uukit sa kahoy. Wood carving are most popular in carving anitos, gods, and nature. So, yung mga Igorot is magaling rin sila or isa rin sa mga craft nila ay yung wood carving. Kanina nga dun sa una, isa ito sa kanilang arts. And then, kinoconsider na rin nila ito na craft kasi nga pinagkakakitaan din nila ito. Marami ding mga turista ang dumarayo sa kanila para bumili ng ganitong mga klase ng carving. So, kagaya ng mga tao na isa sa mga naniniwala sa bulol o dun sa mga pinaniniwalaan din nila ay bumibili ng ganitong mga uri ng sculpture. Ang kadalasan na inuukit nila ay yung yung mga gods, goddesses, and yung basta may kinalaman sa nature. Next naman is yung cloth weaving. One of the most precious living tradition that are still kept until today is weaving. The natives use backstrap loom to produce blanket and articles of clothing. So, kung mapapansin natin, ito pa rin yung native na way ng pananahi or yung traditional way ng pananahi. Isa ito sa pinaka tradition na iniingatan nila. Isa na rin ito sa mga pinagkakakitaan nila kasi nga sa pamamagitan ng cloth weaving, nakakatahi sila ng mga damit kagaya ng mga G-string or nung bahag, tsaka nung pambabae na mga damit na ibinebenta rin nila para sa kanilang pamumuhay. nakakapag-produce sila ng mga blankets or other product dahil sa pananahi na ito. Isa nga ito sa mga pinaka precious living tradition na hanggang sa ngayon ay nabubuhay pa rin sa mga Igorot. Ang next natin ay yung pottery o yung paggawa ng mga paso. Pottery, the design are usually geometric with stylish nature motif. An example of this is palayok, which is used for cooking. Banga and tapayan are used for storing liquid. The clay made stove or kalan. So isa nga din sa mga craft nila ay yung paggawa ng paso, kung saan meron sila ditong mga product na palayok, yung pinaglulutuan natin. So isa sa mga pinaniniwalaan na kapag ka sa palayok ka nagluto ng pakbit or kahit anong gulay, ganun, parang mas sumasarap daw. Tsaka ito yung traditional way ng pagluluto dati kasi wala pa yung mga kawali, ganun. Talagang sa palayok lang nagluluto. Isa rin ito sa kanilang mga pinagkakakitaan dahil sa dinarayo nga yung product nila na ito nung mga turista na gustong bumili ng mga kagaya nga ng paso or yung palayok na pinaglulutuan. So next naman natin is yung tattoos. Tattoos were seen as a source of accomplishment and rank. Men bore ink on their chest and head as a sign of strength as warrior. So sa mga Igorot, mahalaga din yung pagtatato, yung tattoo. Kasi nga, ito yung sign nila na may rank or isa kang magiting na warrior. So, kumbaga tayong mga ordinaryo or hindi kabilang sa mga tribe nila, na-adapt na rin natin itong pagtatato. So, isa nga yun sa mga pinagkakakitaan nila dahil marami nga din yung mga dumarayo sa kanila para magpatato. Kumbaga ngayon, kung ikukumpara natin yung panahon noon at ngayon, parang yung pagtatato kasi ngayon, hindi na siya sumisimbolo as a rank para sa ating mga ordinaryo. Pero sa tribe nila, hanggang ngayon, yun pa rin yung sinisimbolo na isa kang magiting na warrior kapag meron kang tato. As ang pinakahuli ay yung sa mga babae naman. Women wore detailed lines on their arms and wrist or full chest and arm tattoo, and they were seen as a mark of beauty. Most tattoo are earned through the passage of rites of ceremony. So sa mga babae naman, ang simbolo naman ng tattoo ay kagandahan. So sa mga Igorot pala, ina-earn nila yung tattoo nila. Kumbaga, yung kapag ka tinatuan yung isang babae at yung isang lalaki, meron pang seremoning nagaganap. Hindi kagaya sa mundo natin ngayon na kahit sino na lang pwedeng magpatato.
Ngayon ay dadako naman tayo sa kalagayan ng mga Kankanaey people. Ano nga ba ang kanilang kalagayan ngayong panahon ng pandemya? Now, it's been a year into the worldwide crisis brought about by COVID-19. The situation of indigenous people is slowly coming to light with dissemination of reports from different indigenous organizations. Indigenous people are facing particularly challenging times due to some basic facts, including the susceptibility of indigenous communities to infectious disease due to their lower immunity and their lack of or limited access to information, among others.
So, nang dahil nga sa COVID-19, ang lahat ay apektado dito, maging ang mga katutubo ay nahaharap din sa partikular na hamon ng panahon. Dahil sino man ay maaaring kapitan ng sakit na ito. Hamon din para sa kanila ang kakulangan o limitado lamang ang kanilang akses sa mga impormasyon. Dahil hindi nga gaanong sapat ang kanilang kaalaman sa paggamit ng teknolohiya. Dahil nga nababahala ang mga Kankanaey ay napagdesisyonan nilang ipasara ang kanilang komunidad. mula sa mga tagalabas. So, sa tingin nila, ito yung paraan upang maging ligtas ang kanilang komunidad. At sa Cordillera ay ginagawa ang ganitong gawain. Next is, some of these realities are consequences of poor planning by national governments, and others are the result of discrimination and disregard for indigenous peoples. The impact of many exploitative projects in indigenous territories, such as mining and monocrop plantation, are an added threat and challenge. All of this contribute to the further marginalization and greater risk indigenous peoples face, especially in times of crisis. So, ayon dito, hindi maganda ang naging pagpaplano ng pamahalaan dahil nagresulta ito ng diskriminasyon at pagpapawalang bahala sa mga katutubo. Anila, tila ba ay nakalimutan na sila at parang hindi ba sila ay apektado ng nangyayaring pandemya. At tuluyan na rin na napasok ang kanilang komunidad ng mga nagmimina at mga monocrop na kung saan ito yung nagpadagdag ng hamon para sa mga katutubo lalo na ngayong panahon ng pandemya. Ang monocrop o mga plantasyon ay nangangahulugan na mas kaunti lamang ang lupang pang-agrikultura para sa mga IP. Kaya naman sabi nila kung magpapatuloy pa ang quarantine ay malaking problema ito lalo't nagbabago ang klima kaya't nababawasan ang ani na nagdudulot ng kakulangan ng pagkain. Next, dako naman tayo ngayon sa mga ritual nila ngayong panahon ng pandemya. Dahil nga sa pagkakaroon ng pandemya, ay mayroon silang bagong ritual. Ito ay tinatawag nilang ubaya o tangyaw. Ito ay dineklara ngayong panahon ng pandemya. At hindi lang ito tumutukoy ngayong pandemya kundi para na rin sa mga kalamidad na kinakaharap nila at maging sa mga masasamang espiritu. Ang mga gumagawa nito ay ang mga matatanda. Nakatuon din ito sa pagpapaalis sa anumang pinsala sa komunidad. At ang ubaya tangyaw ay hindi lamang para protektahan ang komunidad, kundi maging ang mga tagalabas na maaring gustong bumisita. So, paano nga ba malalaman na nasa ubaya o tangyaw ka? Ang palatandaan na ang isang komunidad ay nasa ubaya o tangyaw ay isang buhol-buhol na piraso ng sanga na inilalagay sa pasukan ng kanilang komunidad. At sa panahon ng ubaya, madalas marinig ang tinatawag nila na kasanaya, na kung saan ang ibig sabihin ay magiging maayos din ang lahat. Sumunod naman ay ang binadang o ubo. Food is shared who have more to those who have less. Dahil nga nakararanas na rin ang mga katutubo sa kakulangan ng pagkain, ang binadang ay tumutulong sa mga kakaunti lamang ang natatanggap. Ang pagkain ay pinagsasaluhan ng mas nakararami at maaaring magbahagi dun sa mga may kakulangan. At dito rin sinasabi na hindi dapat sila mag-aaksaya ng anumang pagkain, pati na rin ang paggamit ng tubig hanggang sa kasalukuyan ay patuloy pa rin itong ipinapatupad. Next, according to Mini Dagawan, a member of Kankanay Igorot, indigenous people and the indigenous Traditional People Program at Conversation International. Dagawan notes and many communities have survived outbreaks such as Ebola by enacting health measures grounded in traditional knowledge. One of the best things that government can do, she writes, is to make it easier for those communities to help themselves. Excluded from most national COVID-19 response measures and government relief packages, many indigenous groups worldwide are forced to enact their own from quarantine through practices such as ubaya. Dagawan writes in recent articles for Cultural Survival, a US-based indigenous nonprofit. She emphasized that this community face particularly challenging times, share dwindling food sources and receiving only limited access to information. So, si Minnie Dagawan ay isa siyang member of Kankanai, Igorot Indigenous People, and she is director of the Indigenous and Traditional People Program at Conservation International. Si Dagawan ay nagsulat ng recent article ng Cultural Survival. She emphasized that this community face particularly challenging times, sharing dwindling food sources and receiving only limited access to information.
Good morning, class. Today, I and my partner, Vincent Lejano, will going to discuss the Igorot tribes. When we say Igorot, what pictures comes in our mind? Some may say they have spears, they are great farmers, some may say they have masculine body, and some will say that they are performing their cultural dances. That was all right. But today, we will deepen our understanding about the Igorot tribes. Who are the Igorots? The Igorots are a group of tribes from the northern region of the country, live primarily in the Cordillera region's mountain ranges. Rice cultivators are what they are known for. The Banawa rice terraces, sometimes called as the eighth wonder of the world, were created by a people known as the Ifugaos. Before we proceed to the sub-tribe which is Ifugaos, let's just dig the past of the history of origin of the Igorots. During the Spanish colonial era, the gold found in the land of the Igorot was an attraction for the Spanish. Both gold and desire to Christianize, the Igorot were given a reasons for Spanish conquest. The Spaniards forcibly partially subdued them during the colonial occupations of the Philippines. Ginagamit ng mga Igorot noon ang ginto para pambili nila ng mga product or ginagamit sa kalakalan. Kaya nang nalaman ito ng mga Spaniards, nagkaroon sila ng interest dito. Nagnais sila na sakupin yung Northern Luzon, pero hindi naman talaga sila nagtagumpay dahil sa hindi pumayag ang mga Igorot na sakupin sila ng mga Espanyol. American Colonial Era. First contact with the outside world was through American military officers and school teachers early in the 20th century. Communication with them was made easier when better roads were built to the areas where they lived. Dito na unti-unting namulat ang mga Igorot sa outside world. In fact, nung panahong sinakop tayo ng mga Amerikano, nakapagpatayo sila ng first American school for Igorot girls. Ito ay noong 1901 sa Baguio City. Mas napadali din yung access ng government sa kanila dahil mas naging maayos ang transportasyon pupunta sa mga liblib na lugar. World War II. During the Japanese occupation, Igorot fought against Japan. June 18, 1966, when Republic Act 4695 was enacted to split mountain provinces. Ifugao and Kalinga were placed under the jurisdiction of the Cagayan Valley, while Benguet and Mountain Province placed under the Ilocos region. In 1946, when finally the territory became independent, the geographic isolation allowed the Igorots na ma-maintain yung kanilang kultura at pamumuhay with a limited outside involvement during the mid-20th century. Ngayong 21st century, meron ng 1.5 million total population ang Igorot tribes. Now, let's describe the sub-tribe which is the Ifugao. Ifugao is a group of wet rice agriculturists occupying the mountainous area of northern Luzon, Philippines. They are of Malay stock and their language is Austronesian. They numbered nearly 70,000 in 1939, but World War II reduced their population to the figure of 50,000. By the late 20th century, their population increased to about 190,000. Tinatawag din silang Ifugao, Ipugao at Ifugao, pero mas pinili nila ang salitang Ifugao na yun ang itawag sa kanila. Marunong sila sa headhunters and famous sila for their spectacular mountain-using rice terraces. Example of that is the Banawe rice terraces, and pinaniniwalaan na nagmula sila sa China 2,000 years ago. Let us discuss the social and economic condition of the Ifugaos. For the Ifugao society, there are no chiefs or councils live in the clan groups that extend to the third class. So sinasabi dito na mga Ifugao ay may little way lang ng political system or the institutionalized community. Wala silang chief or yung namumuno sa kanila. Ang Ifugao society ay nahahati sa 3 klase base sa karangyaan nito sa buhay. Ito ay idinidetermina patay sa pagmamay-ari nito ng lupang sasakahan o taniman ng mga palay at sa dami ng tauhan nito. The first one is the Kandangayan. They guide the village about the moral and judicial matters and lend money. Sila yung pinakamataas na uri sa 3 klase ng Ifugao society. Makikita mo ito sa kanilang pamumuhay, especially sa bahay nila which is identified by the hardwood bench, na makikita mo na kakaiba yung uri ng bahay nila. And also, sila din yung mga nagpuproduce ng mga kailangang objects for the festivals na idinadaos nila. At tumutulong sila sa mga mahihirap nilang kauri na pinapautangan nila ng pera pag nangangailangan. The second one is the Natumok. They own a little land and the very poor in Ifugao society. Ito yung mga Ifugao na napipilitang mangutang sa mga Kandangayan kahit na may mataas na interest na ipinapatong dito. The third one is the Nawatwar. They are the poorest of the poor in Ifugao society. Karamihan sa kanila ay nagsisilbing servant ng mga Kandangayan o sila yung mga tauhan sa palayan na ginagamit ng mga Kandangayan para sa pagtatrabaho sa kanilang mga bukid at sakahan. Ifugao agriculture and hunting. Rice is the utmost importance to the Ifugao. Buldo is the Ifugao rice god and a symbol of wealth. So, palay ang pinakamahalaga para sa mga Ifugao. Kaya, nanggaling din dun yung salitang Ipugo, which means the rice eaters, na pinagmulan ng salitang Ifugao. At yung pinaniwalaan nilang god na si Bulo, na god ng mga rice, is dinidisplay rin nila sa kanilang mga house as to ensure the prosperity or masaganang pamumuhay ng kanilang mga pamilya. When it comes to hunting, Ifugao men hunt rodents, small mammals, and wild pigs with spears, which come in 3 varieties. One which is the hunting stick, another with a magically shaped iron tip is served for a big game, and yet another used for the ceremonial dances. Hunters carry provision of rice and sweet potato in backpacks fashioned from wild pig hide. So may mga iba't iba silang ginagamit for the hunting process para kung gaano kalaki yung ihahunting nila, at may mga pamamaraan sila para makahuli sila ng mga hayop sa gubat. Banawe Rice Terraces. It was made by the Ifugao farmers, which had once been hailed the eighth wonder of the world. Their great system of irrigated rice terraces is deeply contoured, mountain terraced wall of stone that lean slightly at the top. So, kilalang kilala naman natin sa buong Pilipinas ang Banawe Rice Terraces na ginawa ng mga Ifugao. Talagang kahanga-hanga at naipakita nila kung gaano sila kasipag at katyaga sa paggawa nito. The legal systems of the Ifugaos. Their culture was known for their legal system using one of the world's most extensive oral and legal traditions, specifying the offense depending on the use of custom law, trial by elders or by ordeal. The wealthy were subjected to greater fines than the poor. How about the religion of the Ifugaos? About half of all Ifugaos have embraced Christianity, but their enemies' beliefs have been absorbed into their Christian beliefs. The Ifugao have traditionally believed that their lives were ruled by spirits called anitos. So kahit na may mga Ifugao na nag-convert na into Christianity, may mga Ifugao na naniniwala pa rin sa mga anitos. Ito yung mga sinasamba nila na wooden carved anitos. How about their houses? Each house consists of a single 9-foot wide room. The roof is the thatched pyramid and the house itself is supported on the 4 stilts or piles. The pyramid-shaped roof is used as a bedroom, kitchen, and a storeroom. So parang ito yung masasabi natin na all-in-one space. Nandito na lahat. Yung isang pyramid na roof nila, nandun na yung bedroom, kitchen, and storeroom. So hindi siya ganun kalawak pero enough siya for the one family. Wala siyang bintana at naglalagay din daw sila ng skull ng mga sacrifice fig para sa kanilang mga pinaniniwalaang God.
Good day everyone! I am now going to discuss the indigenous crafts of Igorot, which are the carving, weaving, and blacksmithing. Carving is more likely to shape woods. One of the most famous example of Igorot carving is the Bulul statue, which guard their crops. Second is the weaving. It is the sacred art of the Igorot, which uses local cotton, fibers, abaca as raw materials. Example of weaving in Igorot is the ikat weaving, which is a style of weaving that uses a resist dyeing process on either the warp or weft before the threads are woven. There are several types of ikat weaving, which are warp ikat, weft ikat, and double ikat. Last is the blacksmithing, which is the metalsmith who creates objects primarily from wrought iron steel. The term blacksmith derives from iron, formerly called black metal, from the Latin ferrum or iron. The example of it are the samurai and the katana. Let us now move on how the Igorots today. According to repworld.com, tribal culture of the Igorot are rapidly vanishing. Now, most of the 500,000 Igorot lives in tin shack and wear western dress except for old men. In education system, Igorot nowadays have an equal and fair opportunities to study and pursue their career. That would be all. Thank you.